I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Talent and intelligence are two things you cannot measure based on your age. These are factors that are randomly assigned based on the lottery of birth. Proposition doesn't want you to continue a world where students who are less intelligent would feel pressured and unheard by their teachers, and they are afraid to even speak up in their own classroom. For the sake of education and for the sake of these students, you must propose this motion. Now, a few important things on my setup then. Firstly, let's discuss the model on side proposition. We're going to completely ignore the ages of students when allocating them into grade levels based on their intellectual capacity and in handling subject and their level of knowledge. We will have professionals to test this, and we will use the aptitude test to ensure that the result is going to reflect the capacity of these students. Secondly, students will be monitored based on their general performance, and we could do this, for example, by giving them tests at the end of the year that will determine the level of the education will be most comfortable and most suitable for them at the end of the day. This has then the capacity to go both ways. So student may be given more time to study in the same grade, or they could advance further to the next grade depending on how well they actually perform. Now, note that this also means that there will be constant tests periodically to check your capacity. So for example, if you got into class D, it doesn't mean that you will forever be there, and you can still improve and advance if you excel on this later on. Secondly then, let's frame the problem identification in the status quo. The biggest problem in the status quo is that currently students are being judged based on their age for their talents, their skills, their proficiency, etc. So when the primary and the middle school system is based on this incorrect model, what will end up happening is that it will either delay the progress of competent students and hold them back, or it will force students to move into the next level when they already have an incomplete understanding of last year's material, and this will just reduce their ability to absorb new material, as students might not have enough time to learn the prerequisite material to what they are currently studying. Thirdly, then, let's make sure that this debate is clear and clarify some things. First of all, note that the school curriculum will still be the same under our side of the house, so teachers will teach the same subjects and the same things according to each level. This means that classes for the low achieving and intellectually achieving will still learn the same algebra or advanced fractions, biology, chemistry, but that they will do this in different paces and using different methods. So opposition can just say that, oh, we sacrifice the quality of teaching under our side of the house. Okay then, having said this, I would like to move on to my case on firstly, the inefficiency of streaming by age groups, and secondly, how under our side it will improve the education for each individual and benefit every single actor. Now, onto my first argument then, on the inefficiency of streaming by age groups. First of all, panels, you have to realize that perhaps one of the biggest and the most evident challenges for teachers is that they're somehow expected to teach and guide 30 to 40 students in every single classroom, and when each of them would have a different level of intelligence. Look, panels, when you were in school, how many times did you actually have to wait for a teacher to explain a concept you've already known and understood to another student? And then when they're doing this, you have literally nothing else to do but get bored. Or how many times will students not understand a concept that is taught by the teachers, but then they still choose not to raise their hands, as they are embarrassed by the fact that everyone else in the class has grasped this concept and that they're the only ones who aren't competent enough to do so. Now, also notice that the concept of streaming by intelligence is already adapted to like every single school to some sort of extent. For example, remedial and extra classes are given to those students who struggle in class and have historically gotten lower grades than the rest in the past. Now, these remedial classes, although they have the right direction and the right idea, they aren't enough and they should be implemented on a larger scale. Look, clearly, these remedial classes have proven to help students as the teachers would literally teach them at their own pace, and so they'd have much an easier time understanding the lesson being taught to them. However, 1 hour every single week isn't enough to make up for the whole 8 hours a day for 7 days in which these slower students were unable to learn the concept. Look, education is vital for everyone, especially those from a younger age, and this needs to be carried out in the most productive manner possible. However, this sort of thing isn't being done at the maximum potency in the status quo. As for example, in a classroom of 16-year-olds, there will be those students that get 90 to 100% on every single test. Well, there are those students, they don't even understand the topic and would get in their MCQ questions. They would get like 10 to 30% in their tests. So, what is this humongous gap in percentage tally panels? Well, clearly, it says that some students have already mastered these topics, while others need more time doing so. However, what will end up happening is that the teacher would set a standardized amount of time for their students to learn one topic, and then they would move on to the next topic after this time has passed. This is then clearly problematic, as each and every student is different and they have their own unique strengths and their own unique weaknesses. Some of them may be able to do algebra questions in their heads, like in a span of seconds, whilst others would need the help of their own tutors. Now, moving on to my second argument then, on how under our side it will improve the education for each individual and benefit every actor. First of all, it is already a proven fact that your confidence and your attitude affects your performance. So when a student feels like they're out of their depths and they're like years behind each other student in their class, what's going to happen is that this student will be unlikely to be motivated enough to continue paying attention in class and to try their best in every single test. This is because in the past, these students have already tried to understand whatever the teacher is trying to teach them in class, but they're unable to do so. In the past, these students have already tried to study for tests for hours at a time, but they're unable to get a good score on their exams. The fact is that these students isn't getting the sort of education that they need during school hours. Look, panels, these students may have come from a different school where their curriculum was easier, or this student may not have English as their primary language, or basically 1,000 other factors that could explain their performance. On-site opposition, this student will feel like they have low intelligence when compared to their classmates, and then they feel demotivated to keep trying, as they know at the end of the day they're just going to fail. However, under our side of the house, if this student were to be put in a classroom that is based on their own capacity, they'd actually feel more comfortable. This student will be able to answer more questions given by the teachers. They'd be able to get more or less the same scores as their classmates. And this environment, where this student would feel like they're not slow, where this student would feel like they're right where they're supposed to be, then this student is going to be more incentivized to learn. These slower students will be taught at a different pace, get easier tests, and they no longer be labeled as someone who is unintelligent. Furthermore, note that our side benefits students from both sides of the spectrum, as the intelligent students will be moved up from their grade, so they no longer have periods of time in their classes where the teacher is already teaching them a concept that they already know. However, what will happen on side opposition is that they would have a class containing students who are already literate and already have gone to kindergarten school, and those students who haven't even attended kindergarten school, as they are from the working class and they cannot afford this. The gap between attending this kindergarten education is large, and on side opposition, the teacher can formulate a lesson plan that will cater to the needs of both groups of these actors, right? Look, at the end of the day, this is no different than the concept of giving special education to students who have special needs. For example, those students with ADHD are given special treatment, such as different and easier standardized tests or a longer time when they're taking their exams. Both of these things would have the same aim, which is to give the disadvantaged more attention. And because of this reason, vote for proposition.